You know, there are some authors who don't just write in a genre. They are the genre. When you think mystery, when you think of that perfect, twisty whodunit, you're really just thinking of one person. Today, we're taking apart the blueprint of a true mastermind, Agatha Christie. So let's just start with a number. A number so big it almost doesn't feel real. 2 billion. With a B. That's how many of her books have been sold. It puts her in this tiny elite club of the best-selling authors in all of human history. The scale of it is just staggering.
So yeah, when we call her the Queen of Crime, that's not just some cute nickname. It's a fact. It's a title she earned across 66 detective novels in a career that spanned half a century. So the big question for us is, how? How did she do it? What was her secret?
Well, for one, she basically wrote the rulebook for the modern detective story. She gave us these incredible, iconic investigators that we still measure everyone else against. You had the one and only Hercule Poirot, right? The brilliant Belgian who was all about his little gray cells. And on the complete other end of the spectrum, you had Miss Marple, the sweet old lady from a small village who knew that human nature is the same everywhere, whether it's in a tiny town or a big city. And it all started right here. Think of it as the original puzzle box. With her very first novel, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, Christie didn't just write a book. Nope, she basically laid out the entire blueprint for the genre, all inside the walls of a classic English manor. I mean, look at this list. It's all there, right from the get-go. We get Poirot for the very first time. We get the country house, the victim poisoned in a locked room, a classic, a whole cast of characters who are all lying about something, and of course the grand finale. You know the one where the detective gathers everyone in the living room for the big reveal. It's a formula that's been copied a million times since. And a huge piece of that formula was her absolute mastery of the red herring. Christie was a magician at making you look one way while the real trick was happening somewhere else. She'd make you so sure you had it figured out, and then, bam! She'd pull the rug out from under you. And honestly, that's what makes the real answer so good. But here's the thing. Once she had built this perfect formula, you know what she did? She started breaking it. Her real genius was that she knew the rules so well, she knew exactly when and how to shatter them to completely blow her readers' minds. And there is no better example of this than her 1926 bombshell, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. This was so much more than just another murder mystery. This was a direct challenge to the fundamental trust between a writer and a reader. It was one of the bravest, most shocking twists ever put to paper, and it's still controversial today. To pull it off, she took this literary tool, the unreliable narrator, and turned it into a weapon. See, back then, there was this kind of unspoken promise. The narrator, the person telling you the story, was your guide. You trusted them. And in this book, we see everything through the eyes of the local doctor, a guy who's helping Poirot. We trust him completely. But then Christie asks this absolutely wild question, a question that sent shockwaves through the whole literary world. What if the very person you've been following, the one documenting every single clue, what if he's the murderer? It sounds impossible, but with Ackroyd, she did it, and the genre was never, ever the same. And this just shows you her incredible range. With Roger Ackroyd, she broke the rules of how you tell a story. But just a few years later, with Murder on the Orient Express, she broke the rules of justice itself. She created a mystery where the solution wasn't finding the one guilty person, but realizing that every single suspect did it together. It forces you and Poirot to ask what justice even means. But Christie wasn't just a genius of plot. She was an absolute master of mood and pure suspense. And for that, we have to talk about what might be her darkest, most perfect novel. And then there were none. Just picture this desolate, storm-battered island. The setup is just bone-chillingly simple. 10 strangers who all have a dark secret get tricked into coming to this island. And the terrifying part? There's no Poirot, there's no Miss Marple, there is no one coming to save them. There's no way off the island, there's just this creepy nursery rhyme hanging on the wall. And this is where it gets so incredibly dark. That nursery rhyme, it's not just a poem, it's the murderous script. After the first person dies, they notice one of the 10 little figurines on the table is gone. The rhyme is literally counting down their deaths, one by one. It's this relentless, unstoppable march towards zero. So the whole thing just flips. It stops being a standard whodunit and turns into this claustrophobic, psychological nightmare. The paranoia just goes through the roof. The fear isn't about some killer hiding in the bushes. The horror is realizing the killer has been in the room with them the entire time.
All right, so let's pull all these threads together. Let's look at her entire career, from that incredible debut to her final powerful novel, to really understand the legacy she left behind.
You can really see the incredible journey on this timeline. In 1920, she arrives and basically builds the house. By 1939, she's at the absolute peak of her powers, tearing the whole house down just to see what happens. And then, in 1975, she gives her greatest character a beautiful final goodbye.
And she just brings everything full circle so perfectly. In Curtain, a very old, very frail Hercule Poirot goes back to Styles Court, the exact same house from his very first case, and there he has to solve one last mystery while facing his own mortality. It's just an incredibly moving and fitting end.
So what is her legacy when you boil it all down? It's the whole blueprint. It's the unforgettable characters that became the definition of detective. It's the mastery of plotting and those twists that still shock us today. But really, it's her incredible, timeless exploration of who we are, our secrets, our flaws, and the complicated moral choices we all have to make.
Which leaves us with one last question to chew on. Decades later, with countless writers and filmmakers trying to do what she did, you have to ask yourself, in a world that is obsessed with a good mystery, why has no one ever done it better than the original Queen of Crime?